dearest soul, there's a quiet misunderstanding that keeps a lot of people stuck, especially those who believe they're doing everything right. They visualize, they repeat affirmations, they think constantly about the life they want, and yet nothing really changes. Or if it does, it's temporary. And the reason behind that isn't complicated. In fact, it's almost uncomfortable to accept because of how simple it is. You can think about a new life all day long, but if your body doesn't believe it, your reality won't follow. Thinking and feeling are not the same process. And more importantly, they don't carry the same power. Most people are trying to create change from the surface level of their mind, without realizing that the deeper system, the one actually driving their behavior, reactions, and outcomes, is operating underneath that. Let's break this down in a way that actually makes sense. Right now, as you're listening to this, your conscious mind is engaged. It's analyzing, understanding, interpreting. It's the part of you that says, "This makes sense," or "I agree with that," or even "I should apply this." But that part of your mind is only handling a tiny fraction of what's actually going on inside you. Beneath it is your subconscious system, your body, your nervous system, your automatic responses. And that system is processing an overwhelming amount of information every second, not in words, but in sensations, patterns, and emotional signals. So when you sit there and say, "I'm confident," or "I'm successful," that thought exists on the surface. But if your body tightens, if your chest feels heavy, if there's a subtle sense of doubt or discomfort, that signal carries far more weight than the words you're repeating, because your system doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what you feel. Here's a simple way to understand it. Imagine you're in a large room filled with people. One person is standing in the corner, quietly speaking into a microphone that barely works. Meanwhile, thousands of people are talking loudly, reacting, creating noise. Which one do you think shapes the atmosphere of that room? The quiet voice or the collective energy? Your thoughts are that quiet voice. Your internal state, your emotions, your bodily sensations, that's the crowd. And your life reflects the crowd. This is why people feel stuck in patterns they can't explain. They genuinely believe they want something different, but their internal state is still calibrated to the old experience. Let's take an example. Someone wants financial freedom. They think about it constantly. They imagine a better life. They even say things like, "Money flows easily to me." But every time they check their bank account, there's tension. Every time they consider a big opportunity, there's hesitation. Every time they spend money, there's underlying anxiety. So even though their thoughts are focused on abundance, their body is operating from caution, fear, and limitation. And guess which one wins? Not the thought, the feeling. Because the feeling drives behavior, and behavior creates results. Another example, relationships. Someone might say, I want a healthy, stable relationship. But internally, they feel guarded. They expect disappointment. They become anxious when things start going well. So they either pull away or they attract situations that confirm what their body already expects. Again, not because they're choosing it consciously, but because their internal state is setting the tone. This isn't about blame. It's about awareness. Because once you understand this, you stop relying only on mental strategies, and you start working with the system that actually creates change. Now, let's shift to something practical. If your internal state matters more than your thoughts, how do you change it? You don't start by forcing belief. You start by influencing your physiology, because your body and your emotional state are directly connected. Think about how you sit when you feel stressed. Your shoulders come up. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your jaw tightens. Your body literally takes on a protective posture. Now think about how you sit when you feel calm or confident. Your posture opens. Your breathing slows. There's space in your body. That shift isn't just physical. It changes how your nervous system operates. And that's where real change begins. So instead of starting with thoughts, start with your body. Right now, wherever you are, take a moment. Adjust your posture. Let your shoulders drop naturally. Relax your face. Unclench your jaw. Then take a slow breath in through your nose. Not a rushed one, slow and steady. Hold it briefly. Then exhale even slower than you inhaled. Do that again and again. What you're doing in that moment is sending a signal to your system. A signal that says, there is no immediate threat. And when your body receives that signal, it begins to shift out of stress mode. Now, here's the important part. A stressed system creates stressed outcomes. A regulated system creates clear, aligned outcomes. So if you're constantly in a state of tension, whether you realize it or not, your decisions, your reactions, and your results will reflect that. But when your system is calm, your responses change. You think more clearly. You act more intentionally. You stop reacting from old patterns. Let's look at this from another angle. Imagine a musical instrument like a guitar. If the strings are out of tune, it doesn't matter how skilled the musician is. The sound will still be off. But when the instrument is tuned properly, even simple notes sound good. Your body is that instrument. Your thoughts are the music you're trying to play. If your internal state is out of tune, your efforts won't translate the way you expect. So the goal isn't to force better thoughts. It's to bring your system into alignment. And that doesn't require hours of effort. It requires consistency. A few minutes in the morning, a few minutes in the middle of your day, a few minutes before you sleep, just checking in with your body, releasing tension, slowing your breathing, creating a state that supports the life you're trying to build. Because once your body begins to feel safe, stable, open, your thoughts start to shift naturally. You don't have to force confidence. It starts to feel more accessible. You don't have to chase clarity. It begins to emerge. You don't have to convince yourself of a new reality. You start acting in ways that create it. And that's the key difference. Real change doesn't come from repeating words. It comes from embodying a different state. So, if you've been wondering why things haven't been working the way you expected, don't immediately assume you're doing something wrong. Ask a different question. What is my body experiencing right now? Because that experience, more than your thoughts, is shaping your direction. And once you learn to shift, that everything else begins to follow.